Elon Musk never expected to hear such catastrophic news so early in the morning. It was the kind of news that could bring any parent to their knees. Something amazing and unprecedented was about to happen, but no one could have predicted it would start with heartbreak. Before the sun rose that fateful day, the system had already failed one loyal Tesla employee. The police seemed indifferent, and justice teetered on the brink of abandonment. Yet, when the world's most influential innovator learned of this devastating twist of fate, he refused to let the tragedy disappear into bureaucratic oblivion. Nothing could stop him from exposing the truth. What followed was possibly the greatest effort to bring justice that anyone at Tesla or anywhere else had ever witnessed. Days before everything unraveled, Logan Reynolds, a dedicated member of Tesla's engineering team, was running on fumes. He had been working grueling hours on complex battery configurations for the company's newest electric vehicles. He was a man who thrived on solving problems, an expert at pinpointing irregularities before they erupted into full-blown disasters. But he never imagined that all the technical expertise in the world wouldn't help him detect the looming personal catastrophe that would uproot his life. Logan's only child, Emily Reynolds, was a bright, enthusiastic college sophomore. Everyone described her as thoughtful and fiercely independent. She was far from reckless, someone who planned her days meticulously and took precautions to stay safe, even while juggling the usual stresses of student life. On paper, Emily's life seemed secure. But in the pre-dawn darkness one ordinary night, everything changed in a way that would haunt Logan forever. After a marathon stretch at Tesla's Fremont facility, Logan finally managed to collapse into bed. It was well past midnight, and exhaustion clung to every muscle in his body. Then the phone rang. The jarring sound tore through the house at an hour when no call is ever good. Logan's immediate sense of dread confirmed what his pounding heart already suspected. No late-night phone call brings pleasant news. He stumbled to the phone, noticing an unfamiliar number on the screen. Without much thought, he answered, desperation pooling in his chest. On the other end came the short, clipped announcement from law enforcement. They requested his immediate presence at the Palo Alto Police Department. The detective offered no comforting words, no hint of reassurance. Instead, there was only an ominous stillness. Logan's first question about Emily hung in the air. A silent pause replaced any explanation, which was answer enough. He drove through the deserted streets on autopilot, his mind cycling through increasingly horrifying scenarios. The city lights blurred into a haze of panic. Upon reaching the station's stark interior, an officer guided him to a barren, windowless room, exactly the type of space where no one wants to receive difficult news. A detective, appearing worn from relaying countless stories of heartbreak, looked at Logan with apologetic eyes. Through halting clinical statements, Logan learned the unthinkable. Emily had been found behind a convenience store not far from her off-campus apartment. She was gone, her life extinguished by a sudden, brutal assault. Logan tried to cling to each syllable, hoping to uncover a mistake or misunderstanding. However, there was no error. Emily had indeed been murdered, left in a state too horrific to imagine. Those initial moments burned into Logan's memory with merciless detail. The stale smell of the interrogation room, the detective's grim expression, the pounding of his own heart as he realized there would be no second chances. He walked out of that station in a stupor, unsure how the world could continue spinning when his entire universe had collapsed. The simplest tasks, talking, thinking, even breathing, began to feel impossible. In the immediate aftermath, Logan existed in a fog. The house, once alive with Emily's voice, became unsettlingly quiet. He couldn't escape the silence. It echoed through the hallways, lingered in Emily's untouched bedroom, and returned each time he mustered the energy to whisper her name. Whenever people visited to offer condolences, family, friends, relatives, and his colleagues from Tesla, he tried to respond with the usual polite acceptance, but their words of sympathy barely pierced his numbness. He replayed Emily's final text messages, her last phone call, every chat log he could find, searching for a clue. She had recently told him about a frustrating class with a strict economics professor. Otherwise, her messages seemed ordinary. Nothing suggested that her life was in danger. She wasn't involved in risky behavior and rarely went out late. The horrifying question hammered Logan's mind. How could this have happened to her? Despite the unanswered questions, the police had few updates. They claimed to be investigating thoroughly, but Logan could sense their lack of urgency. Every time he pressed them for details, he received vague acknowledgments that they were looking into leads. Deep down, he recognized the patterns of a case quickly turning cold. It was as though the official inquiry was limping from the start, bogged down by limited evidence and limited motivation. Having built a career troubleshooting complex automotive systems, Logan was no stranger to meticulous investigations. He refused to let his daughter's murder be reduced to an underfunded footnote in some bureaucratic file. If the police weren't finding answers, he would find them himself. Day after day, night after sleepless night, he pored over Emily's laptop. In search of anything that could offer the smallest breakthrough, he navigated through her social media accounts, emails, private messages, and phone backups. But nothing indicated any threats or hidden troubles. Not even so much as a cryptic text suggested a brewing conflict. With every dead end, frustration seized his thoughts. At work, he went through the motions on autopilot, barely focusing on the task that once inspired him. After hours, he delved back into personal research, scouring every digital corner for a clue. The heartbreak of losing Emily grew in parallel with his rage at the lack of progress. He had always been a systematic thinker, yet he felt powerless because the puzzle of Emily's death seemed to have no coherent pieces. Just when he thought he was entirely alone, the unexpected happened. One sleepless morning, after another long shift of personal detective work, he received an email that nearly caused him to drop his coffee. The subject line simply read, "I'm sorry for your loss." The sender appeared to be none other than Elon Musk. Logan initially doubted its authenticity. Maybe it was spam or a canned corporate condolence. However, a quick look at the email address revealed it was genuine. Musk's message offered no empty phrases or hollow condolences. Instead, it was brusque and resolute, as though from one problem solver to another. The Tesla CEO mentioned he was aware of Emily's murder and extended an invitation to meet, an abrupt suggestion to come in the very next day. No further explanation was provided. For a moment, Logan wondered if he should ignore it. He questioned whether it could be a stunt or just some formal gesture orchestrated by Tesla's higher-ups. But desperation trumped doubt. Elon Musk was a titan of innovation, known for diving headfirst into challenges. If there was even a sliver of a chance this meeting might reveal new information, Logan felt compelled to accept. He had nothing left to lose. Under normal circumstances, entering Tesla's executive corridors would have felt surreal. Logan had worked at the company for over a decade, but never had a reason to go near the top-floor offices. On the scheduled day, he found himself navigating glass-walled hallways and pristine conference rooms that reflected Tesla's modern ethos. An assistant guided him to a private meeting room, where Musk was seated alone at a long table. Dressed casually and leaning over some documents, he exuded a calm yet intense focus. Logan felt a swirl of fear, hope, and curiosity. The man everyone knew from headlines and social media was here, in person, prepared to discuss the darkest moment of Logan's life. Without preamble, Musk revealed that he had reason to believe Emily's death was not random. Tesla's CEO outlined the stark fact that the police had missed crucial leads, including concealed footage of a dark SUV stationed near the convenience store on the night of the murder. This revelation, shared with no flourish or sugarcoating, made Logan realize that Elon Musk was not merely offering sympathy. He was here to solve a problem, and that problem was Emily's stolen future. Eager for more, Logan found himself listening to Musk's explanation of how this undisclosed video footage was secured. It turned out the convenience store's security camera wasn't the only lens capturing the streets that night. Adjacent businesses kept their own surveillance systems. The police's investigation never expanded beyond the store's immediate footage, missing the critical evidence that Tesla's internal security team had uncovered. The SUV in question was parked as if waiting for someone. Its occupant wore a hooded jacket and stood alert for any sign of Emily's arrival. Instantly, the story of a random attack lost credibility in Logan's mind. Everything now pointed to a premeditated ambush. His mind swirled with unsettling theories. Why would someone target Emily? She wasn't embroiled in shady dealings, nor did she have any known enemies. And who had enough resources to scrub or obscure evidence so effectively that even the local police said there were no leads? As the hours slipped by inside that Tesla boardroom, the bigger picture came into sharper focus. Musk mobilized a specialized group of investigators and technical experts, each armed with powerful tools that could parse private security videos, license plate databases, and even satellite data. Logan found himself in a surreal environment where a father's personal tragedy had become the top priority of one of the most famous entrepreneurs in the world. Everyone pored over pixelated frames, cross-referencing data that included traffic cameras and local property records. When they finally managed to link the SUV's plate to a fictitious corporate entity, Logan felt the chill of mounting anxiety. This was no casual criminal or small-time felon. Whoever orchestrated Emily's murder had the finances and knowledge to hide behind a phantom company, all while leaving no direct trail. Then, as if to confirm that the investigation was stirring the hornet's nest, Logan's phone rang once again. The call came from an unrecognized number, and a distorted voice demanded that he stop asking questions. The line went dead. That voice jolted Logan's nerves more than any news story or secondhand account could. It was direct proof that Emily's killers were vigilant and feared he might expose them. Despite the shock, Logan was unwavering in his newfound resolve. Instead of retreating, he shared the threatening call with Musk's team. The group recognized it as further evidence that Emily's murder was not the result of a random mugging, but part of a carefully orchestrated plan. The more secrets they uncovered, the clearer it became that powerful forces might be aligning to ensure no one discovered the real motive. Yet Musk seemed almost energized by the challenge. He insisted they continue pushing forward. The deeper they probed, the darker everything became. Digital footprints led to shell companies, suspicious financial transactions, and an undercurrent of corruption so insidious that it made Logan question his assumptions about Tesla. As a longtime employee, he had always admired the company's mission to reinvent transportation and push the boundaries of sustainable technology. Now, the place he once considered forward-thinking and transparent harbored hidden corners he never knew existed. When one of Musk's top investigators accessed Emily's email archives, many of which the police had overlooked, they found an alarming unsent draft. The message, written in a panic and never shared, hinted that Emily had witnessed something sinister. She explicitly mentioned that she believed she was being followed and expressed fear for her life. Logan trembled reading these words, fighting the onslaught of guilt. He had no idea his daughter had been so petrified. Why didn't she confide in him? Within this digital trove was a short, grainy cell phone video recorded covertly in a parking garage. Emily had seemingly hidden her phone in a bag to capture a clandestine meeting between two individuals. One man's face, though partially obscured by the dim lighting, was identifiable. He had the unmistakable features of a high-level Tesla executive, and Emily's fear that something was not right aligned perfectly with the footage. The man was talking in hushed, intense tones with someone recognized in law enforcement databases as having criminal ties. Logan's horror and confusion collided. How could an executive of the very company he devoted his loyalty to be connected to his daughter's murder? He felt like a traveler in a bizarre dreamscape where up was down and right was wrong. Waves of anger, shock, and sorrow converged inside him, intensifying his determination to uncover the truth. In the midst of unraveling this labyrinth, Elon Musk demonstrated an unyielding commitment to justice. He initiated a discreet internal inquiry, determined to find out if other employees were involved or if this was an isolated case of one rogue individual. Musk's approach was measured yet forceful, marked by an absence of fear or hesitation. Logan, observing from the sidelines, realized the magnitude of having a powerhouse ally, a billionaire with the will and resources to dismantle even the most sophisticated cover-ups. Eventually, the name came into sharp focus. Daniel Krieger, a senior vice president of global operations, was the individual meeting with a shady figure in the parking garage. Rumors had long floated around the corporate grapevine that Krieger was cunning and had deep pockets for hush money, but no one ever spoke openly about it. Now it seemed that Emily had inadvertently found herself in the wrong place at the wrong time, capturing footage that could unravel far more than a small corporate scandal. Musk prepared to confront Krieger, planning a private meeting in the executive offices. The official reason was disguised as a routine conversation, but in reality, it was an orchestrated moment to corner a potentially dangerous man. Musk and his team gathered every piece of evidence: timeline analyses, the suspicious SUV footage, data linking shell companies, and Emily's hidden video. With these cards stacked, they intended to see how Krieger would respond when faced with his own incriminating secrets. Logan braced himself for the outcome. Every day since Emily's murder, he had felt powerless, but now, with fresh revelations about a deeply rooted conspiracy, he was on the cusp of the biggest discovery of his life. If his suspicions were correct, the entire story would prove that Emily's death was planned from the start, a cold, calculated act. Before any semblance of justice could unfold, a confrontation had to happen. Yet Logan also sensed that nothing about this ordeal would end simply. The next phase promised even more turmoil, and he would have to endure it, all in the name of his daughter. As he stood at the precipice of that revelation, Logan realized how far he had come, guided by the unwavering determination of an unstoppable figure: Elon Musk. The father yearned for one thing: answers that would finally let him see Emily's name cleared of rumor and innuendo, with those responsible behind bars. The boardroom lights reflected off polished surfaces as Elon Musk's strategic plan accelerated from cautious probing to a full-throttle pursuit of justice. On one side of the makeshift war room, Logan Reynolds stood with barely contained emotion, determined to see the truth vindicate his daughter's memory. On the other side, powerful men and women in Tesla's executive orbit started noticing the quiet flurry of behind-the-scenes legal activity. The initial brush with Daniel Krieger, Tesla's senior vice president of global operations, had yielded enough shocking evidence to form a case. But it also revealed that he wielded influence far beyond a single departmental role. Beneath the futuristic sheen of electric cars and corporate success, a web of conspiracy threatened to entangle everything and everyone. At Musk's request, his most trusted legal and security experts assembled in a confidential conference room to review the mounting evidence against Krieger. There were laptop records of shell company transactions, audio analysis of suspicious phone calls, and, of course, the ominous video on Emily Reynolds' phone. Every piece seemed to confirm that Krieger had orchestrated or sanctioned Emily's murder to keep her from revealing his side dealings with an arms trafficker. The greatest shock was how thoroughly he had camouflaged his wrongdoing, from siphoning company funds to forging documents that implicated innocent parties. As new leads emerged, tensions soared. Some members of Musk's inner circle expressed growing fear that Krieger might retaliate if he realized how close they were to exposing him. Yet Musk's resolve was unwavering. At no point did he flinch at the possibility of a corporate scandal threatening Tesla's reputation. His chief concern, echoed by Logan's fervor, was ensuring that Krieger and any accomplices faced the full force of the law. It became clear that the pursuit of truth did not hinge on public relations or the company's market value. Instead, it was personal, fueled by empathy for a grieving father and by Musk's ironclad belief that injustice in any corner of his operations was unacceptable. Under strict secrecy, Musk's team orchestrated a sequence of carefully timed moves to force Krieger into a position where he could no longer hide. One of the most astounding aspects of this strategy was the precision with which they managed to enlist outside help. Although some in local law enforcement remained suspiciously neutral or unresponsive, a federal investigative unit expressed keen interest once they glimpsed the scope of the evidence. It soon became clear that Krieger's offenses were not limited to Emily's murder, horrifying though that was. He was dabbling in larger criminal pursuits, potentially involving smuggling networks and illegal financial schemes. Representatives from the FBI quietly joined Musk's security advisors in analyzing Krieger's digital footprint. They observed patterns of offshore accounts, ghost-written contracts, and periodic payments that disappeared into untraceable cryptic transactions. Certain transactions corresponded to the exact time frame of Emily's final weeks. In hushed tones, the investigators speculated that Emily might have witnessed an exchange of sensitive materials in that dimly lit parking garage, something serious enough that Krieger felt compelled to eliminate any loose ends. Logan, caught between grief and fiery determination, provided every bit of additional detail about Emily he could remember. Her interests, her daily routines, even her social circles. He recognized moments in her final texts and emails when she seemed slightly tense or preoccupied. He replayed recent memories and realized that under the normal chatter about college life, there may have been subtle hints of anxiety. The anguish of not having noticed earlier gnawed at him, but the father pressed on, motivated by a single principle. If the truth about Krieger could surface, Emily's name would stand for exposing a monstrous cover-up, rather than being a forgotten victim. Night after night, fresh evidence poured in, each revelation chilling and surreal. Krieger possessed enough money and connections to keep prying eyes at bay for a while. However, the moment Elon Musk took up the cause, momentum shifted. Musk's relentless demand for clarity was akin to unstoppable force meeting an immovable object. Where local authorities had faltered, the combined efforts of a billionaire's investigative arm and the awakening federal interest meant that vital leads became impossible to suppress. Within Tesla's organizational structure, rumors began circulating about an extraordinary inquiry involving top-level corruption. A sense of nervous anticipation pervaded the hallways. Some senior figures sympathetic to Krieger tried to question Musk's motives. Why risk damaging the company from within? Yet the CEO's stance remained resolute. Any damage done by revealing the truth would be far less than the moral decay of allowing a killer to operate within the upper echelons of Tesla. The decisive confrontation was orchestrated in a less ostentatious part of the facility, away from prying eyes and curious staff. While Krieger believed he was walking into a routine executive meeting, Musk had carefully arranged for federal agents to be stationed nearby. The plan was to present Krieger with undeniable proof, observe his response, and confirm the final details required for an airtight arrest. Logan, no longer an invisible background figure, stood ready to bear witness. The heartache was visible on his face, and he clung to the possibility that some form of closure was near. At the scheduled time, Krieger arrived visibly confident, as if convinced that no evidence could penetrate the layers of concealment he had so meticulously crafted. Despite repeated internal inquiries about Emily's homicide, he had consistently brushed them off, implying that local law enforcement would handle any issues. He appeared entirely unperturbed by the swirl of rumors or the possibility of major legal implications. Despite the mountain of information pointing to his guilt, he still radiated the composure of a man who believed himself untouchable. Within the claustrophobic air of that meeting space, investigators, hidden in adjacent rooms, watched and recorded every gesture. Logan stepped back, letting more formal representatives control the narrative. Musk directed the proceedings with a steady, unwavering focus. Without using direct confrontation, those present systematically laid out the timeline. Emily's initial contact with unknown data, the suspicious SUV sightings, the draft email she never sent, and the indisputable footage of Krieger conducting business with a noted criminal figure. As Krieger realized the layers of evidence compiled against him, a noticeable shift in his demeanor occurred. His normally immaculate posture stiffened, and his calm facade cracked. An undercurrent of desperation began to surface. He made feeble attempts to redirect suspicion, but the crucial digital records and cross-reference financial statements provided an airtight case. By the time federal agents quietly stepped forward to read him his rights, any remaining confidence drained from Krieger's expression. It was an arrest as dramatic as it was methodical. In the space of a few harrowing minutes, the power balance flipped. The corporate titan who once controlled clandestine deals now faced the humiliating reality of metal handcuffs. Logan felt a potent mix of triumph and sorrow as Krieger was led away. The man who had orchestrated Emily's murder would no longer walk freely through Tesla's corridors or any city street. Yet the victory remained bittersweet. Nothing could bring Emily back. The father stood still, absorbing the monumental outcome of an investigation that Elon Musk's involvement had propelled forward. The fall of Daniel Krieger left an immediate impact not just within Tesla, but beyond. Media outlets broadcast the story with breathless urgency. A prominent figure in one of America's most innovative companies implicated in grave criminal conspiracies. Headline after headline speculated on how such corruption could take root in a brand known for clean energy and progressive values. Under federal scrutiny, local law enforcement agencies found themselves forced to reassess why they had been so slow or dismissive in investigating Emily's death. Some officers faced disciplinary measures, while others defended themselves by pointing to outdated procedures and lack of resources. Publicly, Elon Musk delivered a short yet forceful statement, emphasizing that Tesla would not tolerate illegal or unethical conduct at any level. Behind closed doors, he coordinated with various teams to ensure that any other hidden pockets of wrongdoing were swiftly identified and eradicated. The thoroughness of Musk's approach shook the entire organization, sparking fear among anyone who might have cut corners in the past. Internally, employees were relieved to see that justice triumphed over hush-hush deals, even though morale took a temporary hit from the shock of discovering such a treacherous scheme within their ranks. The FBI, leveraging its newfound vantage point, continued to trace the upper reaches of Krieger's operation, unveiling an astonishing web of collusion. A handful of private security companies, shell corporations, and even certain unscrupulous accountants had a role in laundering funds. Emily's tragic death proved to be the key that pried open a meticulously veiled empire of illicit commerce. One after another, Krieger's associates faced questions they could not answer. Most quickly realized there was no escape. Eventually, they provided information that strengthened the criminal case, intensifying the possibility of major sentences for everyone involved. Amid this sweeping crackdown, Logan found himself unexpectedly in the center of swirling news coverage. Journalists sought interviews hungry to amplify the story of a grieving father, aided by one of the world's most prominent innovators. Yet Logan felt drained. The bright lights and pointed microphones held no appeal. All he could think about was Emily's radiant smile and the daily phone calls she would make to share some trivial but amusing detail from her college classes. He wanted the world to remember her not as a victim or a symbol of scandal, but as a spirited young woman whose life had meaning that transcended any corporate intrigue. As the initial rush of law enforcement actions subsided, Musk and Logan arranged a final visit to Emily's memorial site. In contrast to the sensational takedown, this meeting was private and subdued. The sun hovered at the horizon, bathing the cemetery in gentle amber light. There were no reporters, no demands from corporate offices, no interview requests, only the hush of wind through the trees. Logan placed a small photograph of Emily, smiling brightly, against the headstone, recalling how she once asked him for advice on the simplest things, like how to fix a squeaky door or whether to pursue an internship abroad. He reflected on the wave of emotions he had experienced since her murder. The crippling guilt, the raw anger, the desperation for clarity, and finally the grim satisfaction of seeing Krieger in handcuffs. Standing there in the stillness, Logan felt an intense blend of mourning and relief. In a way, a part of Emily's legacy was now recognized. Her bravery in capturing clandestine footage had taken down a major criminal enterprise. The cost, however, was far too great for any parent to bear. Musk stood alongside, offering an unspoken acknowledgement that no form of justice could fully replace what was lost. Amid the tranquil setting, his presence served as a reassuring reminder that, for all the negative headlines and complex investigations, there were people who valued doing the right thing above all else. Without fanfare, the pair lingered for a few moments at the gravesite, each immersed in reflective silence. Later, Musk conveyed that he would remain available for anything Logan might need, whether it was a simple conversation or more practical help. The father appreciated the gesture deeply. Though Emily's murder had been a deeply personal tragedy, the subsequent search for justice became a cause that resonated with many, a testament to the power of collaboration, technology, and shared moral conviction. In the weeks that followed, Logan attempted to resume a semblance of daily routine. The emptiness inside his home was palpable. He cleared out Emily's closet, carefully preserving mementos that held sentimental value. With each piece of clothing or notebook, Memories resurfaced of her teenage grumbles about curfews and her excitement over new academic pursuits. Pangs of heartbreak mingled with a newfound sense of resolve because he no longer had to fight in isolation. The burden of speaking for Emily in the public eye eased as the official investigation had concluded, but he continued to pay attention to the continuing court battles. He remained in close contact with the legal team, determined that every detail about Emily's murder be recognized in the final sentencing. Krieger faced an onslaught of charges ranging from orchestrating homicide to financial crimes. The existing evidence ensured that he could not slip away through technicalities. Meanwhile, various collaborators and high-level enablers met similar fates. None would see freedom anytime soon. As law enforcement disentangled the final threads of the conspiracy, a collective sense of relief settled over Tesla employees. For them, it felt as if a dark cloud had been lifted, replaced by a renewed commitment to integrity and forthright conduct. Shareholders initially braced for the worst, stock dips and reputational fallout. Yet the openness with which Musk confronted the issue ultimately won admiration. Public opinion pivoted, viewing Tesla not just as a manufacturing or technology powerhouse, but as a company willing to purge corruption at its highest levels, no matter the cost. That narrative was inseparable from Emily Reynolds' name. Although she had never sought the spotlight, her life and tragic end became an enduring symbol of moral courage. In online forums, communities praised her courage for capturing evidence that would have shaken even seasoned investigators. Even younger people reading about her story expressed newfound appreciation for how crucial it is to speak up if they uncover wrongdoing, no matter how daunting the enemy. As time marched forward, Logan found tentative solace in creating a small scholarship in Emily's honor. With Musk's blessing and a grant from Tesla's community outreach budget, the program aimed to encourage young women in technology and investigative journalism, fields Emily might have pursued if her life had not been cut short. The scholarship symbolized more than a financial boost. It became a tribute to Emily's relentless search for answers and her bravery in capturing that fateful video. Every year, a select group of aspiring innovators or reporters received funds to further their education, ensuring that Emily's spirit continued to inspire tangible good in the world. On the anniversary of Emily's passing, Logan quietly visited the scholarship recipients. Some had never heard the full story until they looked up the name behind their benefactor. Their gratitude for the opportunity to chase their dreams was matched by a poignant respect for the young woman whose life ended before she could fully chase hers. Logan felt both sorrow and comfort when these students shared that they felt as if Emily's legacy propelled them to strive for excellence and truth. Even the culture at Tesla underwent subtle but meaningful changes. Musk introduced stricter transparency measures, more robust background checks for high-level executives, and advanced monitoring of financial transactions. The experience had proven that no system is impervious to corruption, yet it also reaffirmed that unwavering leadership can uproot even the most sophisticated deceit. Stories circulated of how corporate employees, whether senior or entry-level, were more vigilant in their duties, more inclined to double-check suspicious activity, and more willing to speak up with concerns. People quietly agreed that Emily's loss had saved countless future victims and had fortified the moral backbone of an ever-growing company. Eventually, Logan returned to work. Though the old routine could never be the same, he found a renewed sense of mission in applying his technological expertise to Tesla's next generation of vehicles. He often caught himself glancing at the spaces where Emily once visited him, or recalling how she used to call just to share a silly anecdote from her day. Fleeting moments of emptiness would tighten his chest, reminding him that no amount of progress or success erases the pain of losing a child. Yet every time he felt the stab of sorrow, he reminded himself of the amazing chain of events triggered by Emily's passing. The billionaire who refused to back down, the unstoppable investigation that shattered an underworld of crime, the internal metamorphosis within one of the world's most influential companies. Although the world had lost Emily's warmth and potential, her story now lived on as a beacon for anyone who ever felt powerless in the face of injustice. In quiet reflections at home, Logan occasionally wondered how Emily might view the seismic changes her death had catalyzed. Perhaps she would have found it hilarious to see such a formidable organization thrown into turmoil by her single phone recording. Or maybe she would simply be proud that her father and the CEO she once admired had aligned forces to achieve what authorities initially could not. In the end, that sense of closeness to Emily's memory carried him through the hardest days. The question of whether powerful individuals like Elon Musk should intervene in tragedies outside their immediate purview remained a topic of debate in some circles. Critics pointed out that not every employee had such high-profile backing. But for Logan and those who understood the depth of Musk's involvement, the conclusion was simple. When a moral imperative arose, one did not stand idle. The measure of influence was unimportant if it was not used to defend the helpless or ensure that truth prevailed. And so, life pressed on, colored by heartbreak but illuminated by a bond forged in the crucible of adversity. Emily's name echoed in the corridors of justice, technology, and hope. No one inside Tesla, nor anyone closely following this story, would soon forget the courageous college student who had uncovered a deadly secret, or the father and CEO who refused to accept an unsolved tragedy. The entire saga transcended corporate drama and became a testament to what can happen when a resolute spirit meets inexorable resolve, proving that even the darkest conspiracies are no match for unrelenting pursuit of the truth. If you enjoyed this story, there's another video on screen right now. Go ahead and give it a look for an even more astonishing stories. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, that way you'll never miss our newest uploads.